The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and wildflowers as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of gold and crimson. Tara stood before the old oak, its gnarled branches stretching like ancient arms, cradling her fears and hopes. The canvas, propped against the rough bark, trembled slightly in the evening breeze, waiting for the first stroke of bravery. "You can do this," she whispered to herself, brushing a lock of hair from her forehead, her fingers trembling with anticipation and self-doubt. The world around her dimmed, the chirping of crickets swelling into a symphony that echoed her racing heartbeat. With each brushstroke, bold and unyielding, she poured her soul onto the canvas, mixing vibrant splashes of color that mirrored the tumult in her heart. "This is who I am," she breathed, the words tumbling out like a prayer. The whispers of the forest seemed to wrap around her, urging her on, as the image of a woman, strong and unafraid, began to take shape beneath her skilled hands. Just as the last light of day surrendered to twilight, a flicker of resolve ignited within her, transforming her uncertainty into a portrait of bravery, one stroke at a time. The air hummed with the scent of damp earth and fresh rain, each drop a percussion note on the rustling leaves overhead. A soft breeze teased the tendrils of her hair, tugging playfully as she wandered deeper into the heart of the ancient forest, where shadows danced and whispered secrets along the gnarled roots. "There's magic in this place, you know," she murmured to herself, her voice barely rising above the chorus of chirping crickets and the occasional rustle of unseen creatures. Sunbeams filtered through the thick canopy, dappling the ground with golden patches that flickered like fireflies, inviting her to step closer, to dare the enchantment that beckoned from the thicket. As she brushed past a flowering vine, its petals brushed against her skin, delicate as a lover's touch, igniting a spark of warmth in her chest that fluttered, both thrilling and terrifying. Her heart raced, quickening with the thrill of possibility, each footfall echoing the rhythm of her pulse, the world around her alive with untold stories waiting to be uncovered. She paused, a slight smile breaking the seriousness of her brow, and whispered what the wind responded with a soft sigh, as if acknowledging her invitation to adventure. As the enormous oak doors of Hogwarts creaked open, Alex stepped inside, heart racing like a snitch in a Quidditch match. The scent of polished wood and ancient parchment enveloped him, mingling with the faint hint of something sweet, perhaps pumpkin pasties. His eyes widened, drinking in the sight of the grand hall, where enchanted candles floated like stars above the long tables, flickering against the stone walls that echoed with whispers of history. Laughter rang out, vibrant and joyful, as groups of older students lounged, their robes swirling like clouds in a summer sky. "Is this even real?" Alex muttered to himself, hardly noticing the slight tremor in his voice. A nearby student glanced his way, a friendly smile breaking across her face. "Welcome to Hogwarts. You'll get used to it. Just wait until the Sorting Hat comes out." Her enthusiasm was infectious, easing some of the anxiety bubbling in his stomach. For a moment, the weight of doubt lifted, replaced by a palpable excitement. The enchanted ceiling above shimmered like a twilight sky, casting soft blues and purples over the hall, and Alex felt a thrill pulse through him. This was not just a school, but a world of magic waiting to envelop him, transforming his life forever. The air crackled with anticipation as Alex stepped forward, heart pounding like a war drum, the weight of the moment pressing against his chest. The enchanted sorting hat, tattered and worn, sat waiting, its brim curling as if it were a living creature ready to whisper secrets from ages past. Alex could feel 1,000 eyes upon him, the flickering candlelight casting shadows that danced along the stone walls of the great hall, where banners of crimson and gold fluttered like banners of a forgotten age. As the hat was placed atop his head, a voice echoed in his mind, curious yet probing. A brave soul. But do you possess the courage? The taste of uncertainty filled his mouth, blending with the sweetness of the feast laid out before him. He glimpsed the other houses, the stoic faces of the Ravenclaws, the calculating eyes of Slytherins, the playful laughter of Hufflepuffs, each group echoing with their own hopes and fears. Light grazed his cheeks, and a swell of warmth unfurled deep within him, a flickering flame of bravery igniting in his core. Gryffindor, the hat bellowed, and a deafening roar erupted from the table across the hall. Relief washed over Alex, tinged with exhilaration as he stumbled toward his new family, feeling for the first time that he might belong. The heavy oak door creaked open, revealing a warm, inviting glow that enveloped the Gryffindor common room like a cozy embrace. Flickering flames danced in the fireplace, casting playful shadows across the scarlet and gold tapestries that adorned the stone walls, while the scent of burnt wood mingled with the faint sweetness of pumpkin pasties. Alex stepped inside, heart racing with anticipation, and was immediately greeted by the cheerful chatter of their new housemates. Lydia, with her fiery red hair cascading in waves down her back, stood by the armchair, animatedly recounting her latest escapade. And then, I swear, I almost caught that snitch right out of the air, she exclaimed, her bright green eyes sparkling with mischief. Almost, teased a tall boy with messy black hair, a grin spreading across his face as he tossed a nearby pillow at her. You mean you almost crashed into the Whomping Willow again? Laughter erupted, echoing off the stone walls, filling the room with an infectious energy that made Alex feel as though they were already part of something grand. Lydia turned, her smile warm and welcoming. You've got to join us for Quidditch practice tomorrow. It's a blast, she urged, her enthusiasm infectious. As Alex took in the scene, the camaraderie, the thrill of adventure, the promise of new friendships, they felt a sense of belonging stir within, igniting the Gryffindor spirit that ran through the veins of those gathered here. The chill of the stone corridors wrapped around Alex like a shroud, the flickering torchlight casting long, wavering shadows that seemed to whisper secrets of valor and bravery. He paused outside the great hall, the vibrant chatter of his fellow Gryffindors spilling through the grand doors, laughter mingling with the aroma of roasted meats and pumpkin pasties. Yet he felt hollow, as though he were merely a silhouette against their vibrant lives. "What if I'm not brave enough?" he muttered to himself, sinking against the cold wall, the weight of the house's reputation pressing down like a heavy cloak. He closed his eyes for a moment, envisioning his predecessors, the heroic tales echoing in his mind, a dazzling tapestry of courage. That felt impossibly distant. The knot in his stomach tightened as the laughter crescendoed, an invitation he feared he could not accept. "Hey, Alex," called Amy, her bright smile like a beacon. "Come on, you're missing out. We've saved you a seat." The warmth of her voice tugged at his heart, but he hesitated, dread pooling like lead in his chest. What if, when the moment came, he faltered? What if he couldn't rise to the occasion? The ancient stones of the castle whispered secrets beneath Alex's fingertips as he wandered deeper into the shadows, the flickering torchlight casting playful patterns on the cold, damp walls. Heart racing, he stumbled upon a narrow corridor, its entrance almost hidden by the thick drapes of ivy that clung desperately to the castle's weathered facade. As he stepped inside, the air shifted, tinged with the scent of aged wood and a distant hint of lavender. There, at the corridor's end, hung an unusual portrait, vibrant hues spilling from the canvas like a burst of laughter amid gloom. The brilliant reds and blues danced together, depicting a figure whose eyes seemed to beckon, alive with unspoken stories. "Who are you?" Alex murmured, entranced, drawn closer as though the colors were a magnet. The figure smiled enigmatically, lips parted in a teasing invitation, and for a heartbeat, Alex felt the weight of 1,000 tales resting on his shoulders, longing to be told. A chill raced down his spine, not from fear, but from the thrill of discovery, and he reached out, his fingers brushing the frame, feeling a jolt of warmth, a connection that vibrated through him, whispering of adventures yet to unfold. The flickering candlelight danced across the room, casting ghostly shadows that played against the ornate walls, where the portrait of Sir Bernard hung, his gilded frame glimmering like a treasure chest. "Ah, a visitor," he boomed, his voice rich and velvety, echoing with the weight of ancient tales. "What brings you to my timeless realm, seeker of bravery?" The air thickened with an invisible magic as he tilted his head, a knowing glint in his painted eyes. "In the days of yore, when shadows loomed larger than life, a lone Gryffindor faced a dragon, heart pounding like the beat of a war drum." He paused, savoring the suspense, his lips curling into a mischievous smile. "But tell me, do you know what sets a true hero apart from mere mortals?" The question hung in the air, tantalizing and elusive, much like the dragon's breath of fire that once filled Hogwarts' hollowed halls. The scent of aged parchment lingered around them, mingling with the faint whiff of burnt marshmallows from a distant feast. "Courage, dear friend," Sir Bernard continued, leaning forward, "is not the absence of fear, but a wild dance with it. A waltz that leads to great..." The warm glow of the fireplace flickered, casting playful shadows on the walls as Sir Bernard leaned forward, his eyes twinkling with mischief. "And that, my dear boy, is why you should never trust a parrot with your secrets," he exclaimed, his laughter ringing through the air like a soft chime, each note inviting and infectious. Alex's heart swelled at the absurdity of it, his laughter bubbling up unbidden, bright and genuine, resonating with the warmth of the moment. He wiped a tear from the corner of his eye, the rich scent of wood smoke mingling with the gentle aroma of fine whiskey wafting through the room, wrapping around them like a familiar embrace. It was as if the world outside had faded away, leaving only this vibrant connection between them, unspoken yet palpable. "You've got quite the talent for storytelling, sir," Alex said, his voice still tinged with mirth, a grin spreading across his face, revealing a boyish innocence, he thought, long lost. Sir Bernard merely leaned back, a knowing smile curling at the corners of his lips, as if they had crossed an invisible threshold into a realm of camaraderie. And that moment the age difference melted away, their laughter harmonizing, creating a bond that felt timeless, rooted in shared joy, a flicker of something precious igniting in the air between them. The cafeteria buzzed with laughter and the clattering of plastic trays as Alex picked at their lukewarm pizza, the tangy tomato sauce blending with the overwhelming scent of grease. They sat at the edge of a long table, a place reserved for the few who felt the weight of isolation. The chatter about weekend plans and the latest viral videos washed over them like distant waves, tantalizing yet out of reach. "Why can't I just be like them?" Alex muttered under their breath, fingers tracing the outline of their untouched crust, a silent plea for bravery buried beneath layers of self-doubt. A group of classmates erupted in laughter, and a pang of longing twisted in Alex's stomach, the kind that felt like shards of glass. "Hey, Alex, you coming to the game Friday?" Liam called out, his voice bright and inviting, cutting through Alex's haze. "It'll be fun." "Yeah, sure," Alex replied, though the words tasted bitter, fear curling around their chest like smoke. Inside, a storm brewed. What if they didn't fit in? What if they fizzled out like a forgotten spark? The thought clung like a shadow, yet in that moment, beneath the fluorescent lights, Alex dared to dream of bravery, a whisper of resilience echoing faintly in the corners of their heart. The flickering candlelight danced across the stone walls of the old library, illuminating dust motes that swirled like lost spirits in the cool air. Sir Bernard, his silver hair framing a face etched with the map of countless battles, leaned closer to Alex, his voice low and gravelly, as if the very walls had ears. "Bravery isn't the absence of fear, young one, but the will to act in spite of it," he murmured, his eyes glinting. with a mix of wisdom and challenge. Alex's heart raced, a storm of anticipation and uncertainty brewing within him, the musty scent of aged parchment wrapping around them like a shroud. "Can I truly learn?" he asked, his voice barely above a whisper, fear mingling with eagerness. Sir Bernard straightened, a smile playing at the corners of his lips, and placed a firm hand on Alex's shoulder. "Together we shall traverse the shadows of doubt, discovering not only what it means to be brave, but also to be true to oneself," he promised, each word resonating with an ancient power that sent a shiver up Alex's spine. The weight of the night's commitment hung in the air, a fragile thread binding their fates, as outside thunder rumbled, a herald of the storms to come. The air in the classroom crackled with tension as Alex stood at the front, palms clammy and heart racing, surrounded by classmates whose expectant gazes felt like a spotlight, bright and merciless, with the instructor's voice resonating in their ears. "Now concentrate on the incantation, visualize the outcome." Alex swallowed hard, the taste of dread lingering on their tongue, and summoned every ounce of courage to wave their wand. "Arrow!" The word tumbled from their lips, a whisper swallowed by the walls, and for a heart-stopping moment, silence engulfed the room, thick and heavy. Nothing happened. The spell fizzled into the air like a deflated balloon. Laughter erupted from the back, a sharp cutting sound that sliced through Alex's confidence like glass. "You call that a spell?" sneered one peer, their smirk a dagger twisted in Alex's gut. Heat flooded their cheeks, embarrassment coiling tightly in their chest as they glanced furtively around, seeking refuge in the familiar faces that suddenly felt foreign. "I can do this," Alex thought, determination mingling with despair, but doubt loomed larger, a shadow inching closer. The instructor's encouraging nods barely reached through the haze of humiliation, and the wooden floor beneath their feet felt like a shaky precipice, teetering on the edge of failure. A flickering candlelight danced across the stone walls of the dimly lit chamber, as the weight of Alex's dread hung heavy in the air. Sir Bernard, seated comfortably in his worn oak chair, leaned forward, his wise eyes glimmering with a hint of mischief. "You know, Alex, every great wizard has stumbled at least once." The warmth of his voice wrapped around Alex like a comforting cloak, momentarily pushing back the shadows of doubt. "Take young Cedric, a Gryffindor with courage etched in his very bones. His first attempt at the levitation charm, utter chaos." Sir Bernard chuckled, and the sound echoed soft-heartedly. The poor lad sent his broom flying into a wall, scattering everything, inkpots, quills, even Professor Flitwick's spectacles. Alex couldn't help but crack a smile, imagining Cedric's fiery hair whipping about as he scrambled to retrieve his belongings. "What did he do?" Alex asked, the weight on his chest beginning to lift ever so slightly. "Oh, he laughed, my boy," Sir Bernard said, his voice imbued with warmth. And he tried again, "because that's what brave souls do. They embrace the failures, learn and rise anew." Sir Bernard's gaze radiated conviction, as if lighting a path through the fog of Alex's insecurities, igniting a flicker of hope within him. The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting a warm golden hue across the cluttered desk where Alex sat, surrounded by scattered papers, markers, and crumpled drafts. Taking a deep breath, they picked up the latest version of their story, the ink still fresh, and traced the words with trembling fingers. Each sentence, imperfect and raw, whispered tales of frustration and hope, a stark contrast to the polished prose they'd once idolized. "You know what?" they murmured to the empty room, their voice barely above a whisper. "It's okay to be a little messy." The quiet acceptance blossomed within them, unfurling like a hesitant flower in spring. As the scent of brewing coffee filled the air, invigorating and familiar, Alex caught a glimpse of the potential hidden beneath the surface of their struggles. The idea that imperfection could be the very thread weaving their journey together ignited a spark in their chest. With renewed resolve, they reached for another sheet of paper, a grin breaking through the weight of self-doubt. "Let's see what we can create together," they said, a promise lingering in the air, inviting the imperfections to dance alongside their dreams. The scent of fresh paint lingered in the air as Alex stepped into the art room, canvases lined up like soldiers ready for battle. Sunlight filtered through the large windows, casting playful shadows on the wooden floor. And there, hunched over a table covered in splashes of color, was Oliver. His fingers, stained with hues of blue and green, danced meticulously over a sketchbook. Alex hesitated, heart pounding with the thrill of possibility, before approaching him. "What are you working on?" he asked, breaking the comfortable silence. Oliver looked up, a flicker of surprise in his bright, thoughtful eyes. "It's just a rough draft for a mural project." He spoke quietly, but there was a spark of passion in his voice that ignited Alex's curiosity. "It looks amazing," Alex said sincerely, leaning closer to admire the intricate lines and swirling patterns. A shy smile crept across Oliver's face, a rare flower blooming in a garden of uncertainty, and for the first time, Alex felt that familiar warmth of friendship beginning to take root between them. "Want to help?" Oliver offered, his gaze flickering back to the canvas. The invitation hung in the air, and an electric thrill surged through Alex, filling the space between them with unspoken promises of laughter, shared secrets, and adventures yet to come. The crisp autumn air buzzed with anticipation as Alex, Lydia, and Oliver huddled together in the shadow of the towering goalposts, the vibrant colors of their house uniforms swaying like flags in the gentle breeze. The smell of freshly cut grass mingled with the faint tang of sweat, reminding them of the countless afternoons spent honing their skills, laughter echoing in the backdrop. "Did you see Lydia's last practice? She's unstoppable!" Oliver exclaimed, his eyes sparkling with admiration, while Lydia, cheeks flushed from excitement, shot him a playful glare. "Only because you finally passed me the quaffle, Ollie," she retorted, a grin spreading across her face, revealing a warmth that radiated through the chilly air. As they adjusted their broomsticks, the rhythmic thud of their hearts synchronized, each pulse resonating with unspoken promises of camaraderie and victory. The distant roar of the crowd began to swell, an electrifying wave that swept through them, igniting their spirits. Alex's heart raced, anticipation curving his lips into a determined smile. "Let's show them what we've got," he declared, the weight of their friendship anchoring him, a tether against the thrill of competition that awaited them high above the pitch. The locker room hummed with a tense energy, the smell of sweat and liniment mingling in the stale air, as Alex sat on the cold wooden bench, heart pounding like a war drum. The raucous cheers from the crowd outside felt distant, a world away from the knot tightening in their stomach. Alex's fingers traced the frayed edges of their jersey, each thread a reminder of the weight of expectation, the fierce glances exchanged among teammates, amplifying the silence. "What if I mess up?" they whispered, wrestling with the shadows creeping into their mind, doubt swirling like a storm cloud overhead. The laughter and camaraderie that had once bolstered their spirits now felt like a taunt, echoing in the chasms of uncertainty. "Hey, Alex, you good?" called out Jordan, breaking through the fog, concern etched across their brow. Alex forced a smile, the tightness in their chest only tightening further. "Yeah, just thinking," they replied, voice barely above a whisper, masking the turmoil within. The sound of sneakers squeaking on the polished floor and the roar of the crowd seeped through the walls, both a siren song and a haunting reminder of the stakes, the looming fear of letting everyone down, a heavy shroud they couldn't shake off. The flickering candlelight cast dancing shadows on the stone walls of the great hall, where a hushed anticipation hung thick in the air, palpable as the scent of aged oak and spiced wine. Sir Bernard, his weathered hands resting on the table, leaned forward, his deep-set eyes gleaming with the weight of old battles. "Listen closely, dear friends," he began, his voice a gravelly whisper. "There was a time when hope seemed like a distant star flickering on the edge of despair." The room fell silent, expectant. He conjured the image of a ragged band of villagers, their faces streaked with dirt and resolve. They gathered, trembling yet fierce, at the riverbank, knowing the flood would soon wreck their homes. With nothing but their hands and hearts, they built a dam. Together, they dug, lifted, and packed dirt and stones, their voices merging into a symphony of courage. A glimmer of determination sparked in Sir Bernard's eyes as he recalled their fierce unity against nature's wrath. In the darkest moments, it was their laughter that held the fear at bay, and when the waters surged, they stood firm, side by side. The fire crackled in the hearth, echoing the spirit of that long-ago struggle. And in that moment, every listener felt the weight of their own battles, the shadows of doubt lifting ever so slightly, fueled by the power of shared hope. The roar of the crowd washed over Alex like a tidal wave, a cacophony of cheers and shouts that filled the air with electric anticipation. Heart pounding, adrenaline coursing through every vein, Alex tightened their grip around the polished wooden broomstick. Its familiar smoothness grounding them amidst the swirling chaos. The sun hung low in the sky, casting golden rays that glinted off the vibrant house banners, scarlet and gold, emerald green and midnight blue, fluttering like flags of war. "You got this, Alex?" A voice rang out from the sidelines, a friend's encouragement slicing through the noise, igniting a fire within. With each passing moment, doubt dissipated, replaced by the intoxicating urge to soar, to weave through the air like a comet. The whistle blew, sharp and piercing, igniting the players into motion, and Alex launched into the sky, the wind whipping against their face, a rush that made them feel invincible. Below, the field shrank. The spectators became a blur, and all that mattered was the game ahead. The glory, the camaraderie, the unyielding determination to give their absolute best. "Let's do this," they shouted, their voice lost in the din. But their spirit, higher than ever, took flight with purpose. The whistle blew, echoing over the roaring crowd as Alex soared into the azure sky, the brisk wind whipping past her face, filling her lungs with the intoxicating scent of freshly mowed grass and the exhilaration of competition. Below her, the Gryffindor team moved like a well-oiled machine, red and gold blurs darting across the pitch, their brooms cutting through the crisp air with determination. She could hear the cheers of her housemates, their voices rising in a cacophony of hope and fervor. "Go, Gryffindor!" A sudden collision between two chasers sent a jolt through her, but she grinned, adrenaline coursing through her veins. "Watch out, Alex!" shouted James from the goalposts, his eyes wide with urgency. She nodded, instinctively tightening her grip on the broomstick, feeling the solid wood warm beneath her fingers. The golden snitch flickered like a small sun, teasingly dancing just out of reach, its wings shimmering in the afternoon light. In that moment, the world narrowed down to the beating of her heart and the thrilling possibility of victory. "Let's show them what Gryffindor is made of," she shouted to her teammates, her voice rising above the din, igniting the fire in their spirits as they chased their dreams through the limitless sky. The whistle shrieked, slicing through the crisp air as Alex darted across the pitch, heart drumming like a war drum, adrenaline coursing through his veins. His eyes locked on the golden snitch, a glimmering hope amidst the chaos. But in a moment of frantic excitement, his grip faltered. With a swift flick of his wrist, he sent the bludger hurtling through the air, its ominous shadow swooping toward Mia, who was completely unaware, focused on blocking a rival chaser. The world around him dropped away as he gasped, a breath caught in his throat, time stretching painfully. "Mia, watch out!" he shouted, desperation clawing at his chest. The bludger collided with her broom, a bone-rattling thud that echoed in the stunned silence, and Alex's stomach twisted in horror as she swerved, barely regaining control. Her eyes blazed with fury, and the fleeting camaraderie of the team cracked like glass under pressure. "What the hell, Alex?" she spat, fury mingling with disbelief. A relentless reminder of his blunder, the thrill of the game now overshadowed by the weight of his mistake. He felt the heat of shame flush his cheeks, the laughter of spectators ringing in his ears, a chilling reminder that in this game, one wrong move could shatter everything. The flickering campfire cast dancing shadows across the clearing as the glow illuminated Sir Bernard's weathered face. Deep lines etched by countless battles, fought and wisdom earned. The air was thick with the scent of pine and smouldering wood, a comforting embrace that masked the chill of the night. "Alex, my boy," he began, his voice a gravelly whisper, fierce yet warm. "Every great knight stumbles before they soar. When I was your age, I faced a dragon, and believe me, I missed my mark more than once." Alex, sitting cross-legged in the dirt, felt the weight of his own recent failure bear down like a heavy cloak. His spirit had wavered, but the warmth of Bernard's words was a flicker of hope. "Mistakes are but stepping stones on the path to valor," the knight continued, his eyes gleaming like sharpened steel. "Each misstep sharpens our resolve." The crackling fire sputtered, sending a spray of sparks into the air, and Alex nodded slowly, the flickers reflecting in his eyes like flames of newfound determination. He could feel the breath of bravery swelling within him, filling the cracks of doubt that had begun to settle. "So, I'll try again, Sir Bernard?" he asked, a tentative smile breaking through. "Yes," the knight replied, a proud smile tugging at the corner of his lips, "and I'll stand by you." The air crackled with tension, a mix of sweat and unspoken words, swirling around them as Alex shifted nervously from foot to foot, his hands fidgeting with the frayed hem of his shirt. "I'm sorry," he finally blurted, his voice barely rising above the hum of their shared disappointment. "I messed up. I should have listened." The group paused, their eyes flickering to one another, the weight of his admission hanging in the air like the thick scent of damp earth after rain. Sarah, her brow still furrowed with frustration, crossed her arms but softened slightly, the tension in her shoulders easing a fraction. "We all make mistakes, Alex," she replied, her tone a careful blend of understanding and resolve. "But we need to trust each other to move forward." A tentative spark ignited in Alex's chest, and he took a step closer, the warmth of camaraderie breaking through the chill of uncertainty. "Let's try it again, together," he urged, his voice steadier now, a new rhythm resonating in his words. As they locked eyes, an unspoken agreement blossomed, and when they dove back into the task, laughter broke free, rising like a chorus above the chaos, small victories woven into their efforts, each moment stitching them closer together. The air hummed with the sharp scent of pine and the distant crackle of a campfire, casting flickering shadows against the towering trees as the team gathered, laughter bubbling like nearby brook water. They stood in a loose circle, faces flushed from the evening chill and the rush of adrenaline, a tapestry of smiles and softened eyes reflecting the day's triumphs. "I can't believe we actually did it," Amelia exclaimed, her voice rising above the soft rustle of leaves as she playfully nudged Jake, who still bore the marks of their daring adventure, a scuff on his knee, a scratch on his cheek. He grinned back, the joy of their shared challenge lighting up his features. "Yeah, we're unstoppable." Laughter cascaded through the group, the warmth of camaraderie swirling around them like the fire's glow. Them, in their own quiet way, had shown bravery. Some in taking the leap off the cliff, others in voicing their fears, and all in standing shoulder to shoulder when it mattered most. As they clinked their mugs together, the rich flavor of hot cocoa warming their hands, an unspoken bond strengthened in that sacred moment, sealing promises of support and adventure yet to come, their hearts beating in sync with the rhythm of the night. The moon hung low in the sky, casting pale fingers of silver light through the gnarled branches of the forbidden forest, where shadows danced with an unsettling rhythm. A hushed murmur rippled through the corridors of Hogwarts, like a chill wind rustling fallen leaves. "Did you hear about the creature?" whispered Beatrice, her voice trembling, eyes wide as she clutched her wand tighter, knuckles whitened. The flickering torchlight cast long, wavering shadows upon the stone walls, mirroring the dread that nestled in the heart of every student. "It's just a story," scoffed Oliver, trying to mask his own unease with bravado. But the vibrancy of the great hall, once filled with laughter and chatter, had dimmed with fear. The scent of roasted chicken and pumpkin pasties lingered, a stark contrast to the gnawing anxiety that clawed at their insides. Outside, the trees swayed, their creaks and groans echoing faintly, as if the forest itself was alive, whispering secrets only the brave could decipher. "Promise you won't go near?" Beatrice implored, her voice darting toward the window where the branches beckoned like skeletal fingers. "Promise," Oliver echoed, though the challenge in his heart ignited a flame of curiosity that threatened to burn brighter than dread. The night stretched long ahead, filled with unspoken fears and the magnetic pull of the unknown. The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting elongated shadows across the clearing as Lydia's eyes sparkled with mischief and daring. "What if we explore the old mill?" she proposed, her voice a sultry whisper, laced with the thrill of uncharted territory. The moment hung in the air, pregnant with possibilities, as a shiver of excitement coursed through Alex's veins, mingling with a thread of trepidation. He glanced at the gnarled trees that encircled the mill, their twisted branches clawing at the sky like desperate fingers. "You mean the one everyone says is haunted?" he stammered, half challenged, half terrified, the wind picking up, rustling through the leaves as if urging them forward. Lydia laughed, a bright, infectious sound that danced in the fading light. "Exactly. Think of the stories we could tell." Her enthusiasm was a roaring fire in the cool air, igniting something deep within him, a flicker of courage battling with apprehension. As they gathered their courage, the scent of damp earth mingled with the crispness of twilight, and Alex felt a heady rush, the magnetic pull of the unknown, whispering promises of adventure and secrets waiting to be unearthed, igniting a spark in his heart that gleamed like gold amid the encroaching shadow. The crisp morning air filled the small cabin as Alex rifled through a weathered backpack, fingers trembling slightly, brushing against the rugged fabric of climbing gear and ready-made rations. The muted sounds of rustling paper and clinking metal echoed around him, punctuated by Sam's steady voice, outlining the route they would take through the dense, uncharted forest. "We'll leave at dawn, right after breakfast," she said, her eyes sparkling with a mixture of excitement and determination, while Jake, leaning against the wooden table, nodded thoughtfully, his brow furrowed with concentration. The shelves around them sagged under the weight of maps and guides, the scent of old leather mingling with the earthy aroma of the nearby forest, rich and inviting. Yet, beneath the thrill of adventure, a knot twisted in Alex's stomach, his heart racing at the thought of the unknown. "What if we get lost?" he murmured, almost to himself, as he glanced at the battered compass, its needle swinging erratically, reflecting his tumultuous thoughts. "We won't," Sam replied, her tone firm yet reassuring. "We've trained for this. We'll stick together." Despite her confidence, Alex's unease lingered like a shadow, a whisper of doubt that trailed him as they packed the last of their supplies, the anticipation of adventure clashing with the fear of the wild unknown. The flickering candlelight cast long, dancing shadows across the cold stone walls of the chamber, where the air hung thick with the scent of burning wax and damp earth. Sir Bernard leaned closer, his weathered face etched with lines of concern and wisdom as he spoke in a low, gravelly voice. "Alex," he warned, the warmth of his breath mingling with the chill, "the path ahead is fraught with peril. And the darkness you face is not just of the night." His piercing gaze held Alex captive, a storm of doubt and determination swirling within. Each word felt like a weight pressing down on Alex's chest, the fear of the unknown clawing at the edges of courage. "Do you think I can?" Alex's voice trembled, almost lost amid the crackling of the fire. Sir Bernard placed a steadying hand on Alex's shoulder, his grip firm yet reassuring. "You must, for within that fear lies your greatest strength. Embrace it. Let the fire within you ignite." The flicker of flames mirrored the flicker of hope igniting in Alex's heart. With each passing moment, the shadows seemed to whisper secrets, daring Alex to step into the abyss, to confront what lay beyond the veil of fear. The world outside the stone walls awaited, an uncharted territory calling out. And in that moment, Alex knew the choice was clear: to face the darkness or be consumed by it. The moment they crossed the threshold into the forbidden forest, a hush enveloped them, the air thick with the scent of damp earth and aged wood, as if the trees themselves were holding their breath. Shadows twisted and turned, weaving intricate patterns across the ground, while the low hum of unseen creatures reverberated in their chests, a relentless reminder of the mysteries lurking in the dark. "Are you sure we should be here?" whispered Alara, her voice barely a wisp amidst the ancient oaks, anxiety threading through her tone like a silver strand of spider silk. Finn, emboldened by the thrill of rebellion, shot her a reassuring grin, though his heart raced as if it too feared the forest's secrets. "Come on, it's just trees," he said, though even he wasn't convinced. The leaves rustled above them, a chorus of whispers that seemed to call out their names, beckoning them deeper into the abyss. As they pressed onward, the light faded, swallowed by the intertwining branches, and every crackle of twigs underfoot sent shivers down their spines, a mix of exhilaration and dread swirling in the pit of their stomachs. Together they forged ahead, the weight of unspoken fears and untold wonders looming like a fog around them, inseparable from their resolve. The air was thick with unease as the group pressed deeper into the shadowed thicket, their laughter from moments before now a distant echo swallowed by the oppressive stillness. Suddenly, a rustle erupted from the brambles, a sound so jarring it sent jolts of ice through their spines. "What was that?" whispered Mia, her voice trembling as she instinctively grasped Sam's arm, her nails digging in like a vice. Beneath the tangled branches, a sinister shape slithered into view, its scales glinting ominously in the slivers of moonlight. It was no mere animal. It was a creature, unnatural and dreadfully large, with eyes like molten gold that pierced through the darkness, scanning the terrified faces before it. "Run!" Jake shouted, but his voice wavered, barely escaping his throat as he staggered back, tripping over roots that clawed at his ankles. Panic erupted like a wildfire. Hearts thundered, breaths quickened, and the stench of fear mingled with the damp earth, suffocating and real. They froze, caught in the creature's gaze, a blend of curiosity and terror binding them to the spot, the cacophony of their racing hearts drowning out the world. "What do we do?" Mia's plea hung in the air, fraught with desperation, as the creature took a slow, deliberate step forward, each movement a dark promise of the unknown. The air crackled with tension as Alex faced the creature, its scales glimmering like shards of broken glass, every breath it took sending a shudder through the ground beneath him. Sir Bernard's words echoed in his mind, a steady mantra against the chaos around him. Bravery is not the absence of fear, but the triumph over it. Swallowing hard, Alex stepped forward, his heart pounding in rhythm with the creature's low growl. A stench of sulfur filled his nostrils, but he pushed through the nausea, gripping the hilt of his sword, though he knew it was useless against this beast. "I'm not afraid of you," he said, his voice steadier than he felt, each word a small rebellion against the terror that clawed at his insides. The creature's fiery eyes narrowed, as if appraising this frail human who dared to challenge it. And with each beat of silence, Alex felt the weight of the world shift, a fragile bond forming between them, a dance of raw instinct and unyielding courage. He could feel the heat radiating from its body. but there was a flicker of something else in its gaze, a begrudging respect, perhaps. And in that moment, with the sun setting behind, to him, painting the sky in hues of crimson and gold, Alex knew that bravery was about standing tall, even when the shadows loomed large. The creature's shimmering scales glinted like shards of broken glass in the moonlight, each breath it took sending ripples through the fog that clung to the ground. Alex stood, frozen, heart racing, as the beast's wide, luminous eyes locked onto his, filled with an emotion he had not expected. Fear. The creature backed away, muscles tense, its jagged teeth bared, not in a snarl, but in a quivering grimace of uncertainty. "Hey, it's okay," Alex whispered, his voice soothing, as he slowly extended his hand, palm up. The night air was thick with the scent of damp earth and wildflowers, but all he could hear was the rapid thrum of his heartbeat and the creature's shallow breaths. "I'm not going to hurt you," he murmured, stepping closer, his pulse echoing in his ear. The creature hesitated, its eyes darting, betraying a flicker of trust as it tentatively lowered its snout, the sharpness of its teeth receding into a gentler expression. "See? Just a friend," Alex said with a gentle smile, watching as the monster's fear melted away like mist under the dawn. The air shifted, lightening, and in that charged moment the wildness faded, replaced by an unspoken bond, fragile yet profound, as they both stood, suspended in the serene embrace of understanding. Laughter echoed through the clearing, mingling with the crisp scent of pine and the warmth of the setting sun, painting everything in hues of gold. Alex stood at the center, cheeks flushed, his heart thrumming with pride, as friends crowded around him, their faces alight with admiration. "You really showed them, didn't you?" Jenna exclaimed, her eyes sparkling with an excitement that felt electric, like static dancing between them. Just moments ago, fear had hung in the air, thick and suffocating, but now the weight was lifted, replaced by a buoyant sense of camaraderie. The campfire crackled, sending tiny embers swirling upwards, while the shadows of their silhouettes flickered against the trees, a testament to the bonds forged in their shared ordeal. "I didn't think I could do it," Alex admitted, his voice barely rising above the gentle chorus of night crickets. "But you all believed in me." Sam clapped him on the back, a broad grin splitting his face. "That's what friends are for. Together we're unstoppable." They cheered, an infectious rhythm of support, intertwining laughter and shouts of encouragement, each word strengthening the threads that bound them closer, a tapestry of friendship woven tighter with every heartbeat, every shared victory. The clock ticked mercilessly, each second echoing through the silent room like a taunting whisper, as Alex sat hunched over the desk, the faint scent of ink mingling with the stale air of crumpled papers and coffee stains. A stack of textbooks loomed beside him, their spines cracked and pages dog-eared, a chaotic graveyard of scribbled notes and half-formed thoughts. The words swam before his eyes, dancing just out of reach as anxiety coiled tightly in his chest, a physical weight pressing down with every breath. He shoved a hand through his tousled hair, muttering to himself, "Come on, just focus, just one more chapter." But the words fell flat, lost in the whirlwind of doubt spiraling in his mind. Outside, the sun dipped low, casting an orange glow through his window, a stark contrast to the turbulent storm of panic brewing within him. He glanced at his phone for the umpteenth time, the screen glaring back with reminders of impending deadlines, each notification a hammer striking against the anvil of his resolve. "What if I fail?" he whispered, the thought wrapping around him like a shroud as he fought against the tide of despair, desperately searching for a lifeline in the sea of uncertainty. The late afternoon light streamed through the dusty window, casting golden rays over the cluttered table where textbooks lay sprawled like a chaotic map of knowledge. Lydia sat cross-legged in her favorite oversized sweater, her fingers tapping nervously against the spine of a brightly colored biology book, while Oliver leaned back in his chair, a playful smirk dancing across his lips as he tossed a pencil into the air and caught it effortlessly. "Okay, Alex, let's break this down. What's the difference between meiosis and meiosis?" he asked, his voice smooth but encouraging, nudging Alex to shake off his anxiety. Alex perched on the edge of his seat, his brow furrowed as he stared at the notes he had scribbled, the ink smudged from countless erasures. Mitosis is just one division, right? But meiosis is," he started, his voice faltering, the weight of expectation pressing down on him like a heavy blanket. Lydia leaned closer, her eyes sparkling with encouragement. "You've got this. Remember the way I showed you to visualize it? Think of mitosis like a split. But meiosis is more like a dance." With each word, the tension in the room dissipated, replaced by a vibrant energy, their laughter mingling with the scent of stale pizza and forgotten soda, creating an atmosphere of camaraderie and warmth. At that moment, amidst the scattered papers and lingering uncertainty, Alex felt the heaviness lift, buoyed by the simple truth of their presence, that he wasn't alone in this daunting journey. The sun cast a warm golden hue across the worn wooden desks, while the scent of old books mingled with the faint aroma of freshly brewed tea, creating an atmosphere of comfort and nostalgia in the dimly lit classroom. Sir Bernard leaned against the chalkboard, his wise eyes twinkling with mischief as he began, "Gather round, my friends, and let me tell you of young Alice, who faced the dreaded math exam with nothing but sheer grit." His voice, a sonorous melody, washed over the students, pulling them into his tale. Picture her, trembling at her desk, pencil shaking like a leaf in the wind, he continued, a faint smile playing at the corners of his lips. But instead of surrendering to panic, she whispered to herself, "I am more than my fears." The air hung heavy with anticipation as Sir Bernard recounted how, through late-night study sessions and countless cups of tea, Alice transformed her anxiety into determination, overcoming not just the exam, but her self-doubt. "In the end," he said, leaning closer, "it wasn't just a grade she earned. It was the courage to believe in herself, A hushed silence enveloped the room, each student lost in their thoughts, the weight of their own fears momentarily lifted by the power of Sir Bernard's words, resonating like a heartbeat of hope. The late afternoon sun streamed through the tall window, casting a warm golden hue across Alex's cluttered desk, where books, notes, and highlighters lay scattered like the remnants of a battlefield. With Sir Bernard's words echoing in his mind, "Every leap begins with a single step," Alex straightened his back and picked up the well-worn textbook, its pages dog-eared and frayed. He inhaled deeply, the faint, musty scent of paper mingling with the sweet aroma of the nearby jasmine plant. It blooms, vibrant and alive, much like the newfound determination swelling within him. "Okay, just one chapter at a time," he murmured to himself, and as he opened the book to chapter 5, the letters seemed to dance with possibilities, sparking an excitement he hadn't felt in weeks. He could almost hear Sir Bernard's reassuring voice, "Believe in your own strength." And it was as if the weight of self-doubt lifted, replaced by a burgeoning belief. The ticking clock, once a source of anxiety, now kept rhythm with his heartbeat, steady and encouraging. Each word he absorbed felt like a small victory, a note in the symphony of his education, slowly composing a melody of confidence that resonated deep within him. "I've got this," he declared softly, a smile breaking across his face, as the shadows of uncertainty began to fade, giving way to the brilliant light of possibility. The door creaked open, and Alex stepped into the exam room, the cool air hitting him like a brisk wave, sending a shiver down his spine. Rows of wooden desks stood like sentinels in neat, regimented lines, each adorned with an unblemished sheet of paper, waiting to be marked with the ink of his thoughts. The scent of fresh paper mingled with the faint whiff of disinfectant, creating an atmosphere both sterile and charged with potential. Heart-pounding, he caught glimpses of fellow students, their faces a mosaic of determination and dread, whispering soft prayers or grim reassurances. "Just breathe," he murmured to himself, the words barely escaping his lips, swallowed by the hushed murmurs of anticipation. He could hear the soft scratching of pens as students made last-minute notes, the cadence of their anxiety echoing in his ears. Alex wiped his clammy palms against his jeans, catching sight of the clock ticking steadily. Each second a drumbeat amplifying his nervous energy. As he settled into his chair, an adrenaline rush surged through him, both exhilarating and terrifying. This was it, the moment he'd been waiting for, where excitement danced hand in hand with anxiety, the lines between success and failure blurring in the swirling chaos of his mind. He took a deep breath, focusing on the blank page before him, ready to forge his own path in ink. The hum of pencils scratching against paper filled the cramped room, a backdrop to the rhythmic thumping of Alex's heart, each beat a reminder of the stakes. Shadows danced under the flickering fluorescent lights overhead, creating specters of uncertainty that whispered doubts into his ear. What if you fail? What if everyone else shines while you flounder? A bead of sweat trickled down his spine, and he squeezed his eyes shut for a moment. The scent of stale coffee and the faint whiff of anxiety hanging heavy in the air. Then, amidst the chaos of his swirling thoughts, a familiar voice broke through. "You've prepared for this, Alex. Trust yourself." Sir Bernard's deep, reassuring timbre echoed in his mind, the warmth of those words wrapping around him like a safety net. Suddenly, the questions on the paper transformed, no longer daunting monsters, but rather challenges waiting to be tackled. With a shaky breath, he opened his eyes and dove back into the exam, a determined glint igniting within him. "I can do this," he muttered under his breath, the pencil poised in his hand, feeling less like a weapon against failure and more like a key to his own potential. Each stroke an act of defiance against the shadows of doubt. The clocks ticking echoed in Alex's ears, each thud, a reminder of the fleeting time. Yet everything else blurred into a haze as the exam paper lay before them, stark and daunting. Fingers trembling slightly, they took a deep breath, inhaling the faint scent of paper and the lingering aroma of burnt coffee from the nearby cafe. "Just focus," they whispered to themselves, the words barely breaking the cocoon of silence that enveloped the room. And they read the first question. The words began to swirl, threatening to escape their grasp, but Alex closed their eyes for a heartbeat, grounding themselves in that moment. Inhale, exhale. The warmth from the sun filtering through the window danced across their skin, a gentle reminder that outside these four walls, life thrived. With renewed determination, Alex picked up their pencil, feeling its grip steadying their hand, and began to write. Each stroke of graphite against the paper felt like reclaiming lost ground, clarity slicing through the fog of anxiety. They could hear the rustle of pages turning around them, the muffled sighs from fellow students. Yet all that mattered was the rhythm of their own heartbeat, steadying, calming, as they filled each answer with careful consideration and hope. "You've got this," they thought, as a small smile broke through, the weight of the world lifting just for that moment. Laughter bubbled up from their table at the corner cafe, a symphony of joy mingling with the rich aroma of freshly brewed coffee and sweet pastries. Sunlight poured through the large windows, illuminating their faces. Alex, Mia, and Jordan, each one alive with a sense of triumph. "Can you believe we actually survived?" Mia exclaimed, her voice dancing in the air as she raised her cup, the porcelain clinking against Alex's with a warm, comforting sound. The chill of anxiety that had gripped Alex just days ago seemed a distant memory. Now it was replaced by a soft surge of pride, a realization settling in like a gentle warmth. Glancing at his friends, he saw not just the familiar faces, but reflections of the battles they had fought together, the late-night study sessions, the crumpled notes strewn about like fallen leaves, the shared moments of doubt. "We've come so far," Jordan said, a grin spreading across his face, eyes sparkling. Alex felt a swell of gratitude, the kind that brightened the heart. He swirled the last of his coffee, the steam curling up like the dreams they had toasted to just moments before. In that moment, surrounded by laughter and warmth, he understood they were not just friends, but a family, forged in the fires of challenge, and the future brimming with possibilities lay before them, vast and inviting. The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting a warm golden hue over the backyard, where laughter mingled with the sweet scent of blooming jasmine. "What if we hike up to Blue Ridge, camp under the stars?" Jess suggested, her eyes sparkling with the thrill of possibility. The air was thick with anticipation, a gentle breeze rustling the leaves as Sam leaned back against the rough bark of an ancient oak, a grin spreading across his face. "Yeah, and we can bring those ridiculous marshmallow sticks. Remember the ones we made last year?" he chuckled, envisioning the chaos of sticky fingers and laughter echoing through the woods. The sound of ice clinking in glasses punctuated their excited chatter, the tang of lemonade mingling with the perfume of the evening blooms. "And what about that road trip? We could drive all the way to the coast, windows down, music blasting," Jess added, her voice rising with enthusiasm, as if the very thought could lift them off the ground. The world ahead felt limitless, painted in bright strokes of adventure and endless possibility, each idea sparking vivid images in their minds, shadows of tomorrow dancing in the twilight. They sat, hearts racing, clutching dreams woven with threads of friendship, laughter, and the promise of summer days that awaited them. The dawn light filtered through the heavy curtains, casting a muted glow on the ancient tapestries that adorned the walls, yet the room felt eerily devoid of warmth. Alex stood by the window, the chill of the morning wrapping around him like a cold shadow, his heart thudding in his chest. "Sir Bernard," he called, his voice barely breaking through the oppressive silence that lingered in the air, thick and unsettling. The usual creaks and rustles of the old house, the gentle clinks of Sir Bernard's beloved collection of trinkets, were replaced by an ominous stillness that gnawed at Alex's resolve. He paced the room, each footfall echoing with growing desperation, the faded scent of leather and dust swirling around him, reminding him of the countless tales they had shared. Laughter layered over whispered fears and fragile dreams. "Where are you?" he murmured, his throat tightening with dread as he clutched the worn journal that bore the marks of their adventures, its pages now feeling like a lifeline, but also a haunting reminder of the man who had vanished without a trace. The sun climbed higher, illuminating the dust motes dancing in the air, yet within Alex a storm brewed, uncertainty clawing at his insides, leaving him adrift in an ocean of worry, searching for any sign of his friend. The air in the portrait gallery hung thick with an unsettling silence, the kind that prickled at the back of Alex's neck as he stepped deeper into the dimly lit hall, the flickering candlelight casting shadows that danced like specters on the walls. Each frame, once vibrant with the whispers of life, now echoed only the hollow thuds of his heart. a jarring contrast to the vivid brushstrokes of emotion captured on canvas. "Where have you gone?" he murmured, his voice barely more than a breath, as he peered closer at a once bustling scene of a banquet, now rendered mute, the laughter frozen, like a haunting memory caught in time. He glanced at the portrait of a noblewoman, her eyes wide with a silent scream, her lips parted as if to call out, yet only a ghost of a sound lingered in the air, a melancholy wisp that slipped through his fingers. "This can't be happening," he thought, a shiver racing down his spine, as a nearby canvas, a proud knight in scarlet armor, seemed to glower at him, bereft of its once resounding battle cry. The confusion tightened like a vice around his chest, the familiar comfort of history slipping away, leaving only a profound sense of dread. "Is anyone else noticing this?" he called out, his voice bouncing off the walls, swallowed whole by the eerie stillness, as if the very spirits of the gallery mourned the loss of their voices, trapped in the frame, forever mute. The dim light of dusk draped over the narrow alley, casting long shadows that danced along the crumbling brick walls, as Emma whispered, her breath barely escaping her lips. What if it's more than just a rumor? A chill pricked at their skin, the air thick with uncertainty and the scent of damp earth. Across from her, Jake clenched his fists, the gravel crunching underfoot, amplifying their trepidation. "We can't ignore it," he replied, his voice low but firm, eyes darting toward the mouth of the alley as if expecting something or someone to emerge from the darkness. Sarah, her heart racing, traced her fingers along the rough surface of the wall, feeling each jagged edge as though they were the very whispers of the past, secrets begging to be unearthed. "Just imagine if it's true," she murmured, her imagination spinning wild tales of danger and intrigue, the excitement mingling with fear, causing her pulse to quicken. The trio huddled closer, their resolve hardening like the encroaching night, the wind carrying a distant howl that seemed to echo the unspoken fears nestled in their hearts. "We need to split up," Jake finally suggested, and as he spoke, the shadows appeared to deepen, swallowing them whole. In the flickering shadows of the ancient stone walls, a chill swept through the chamber as the heavy tapestry stirred, revealing the entrance to the secret chamber. "There it is, Harry," Hermione whispered, her voice barely rising above the soft patter of dripping water echoing in the dim light. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and old parchment, a musty aroma that clung to their clothes like a warning. Ron stepped forward, his heart racing with a mix of trepidation and exhilaration as the faint glow of enchanted torches illuminated intricate carvings of mythical beasts winding around the granite columns, their eyes seemingly following him, judging him. "Do you think it's safe?" he muttered, glancing at Hermione, whose determined gaze reflected a spark of unyielding curiosity. "Safe or not, we have to find out," she replied, her fingers brushing over the cool surface of a stone slab, tracing the ancient runes inscribed upon it, stories of old wizards whispering through the ages. The chamber seemed alive, vibrating with secrets held close for centuries. And as they stepped further inside, the air crackled with possibility, as if the very walls were holding their breath, waiting to unveil long-buried truths that could change everything. The chamber was thick with an oppressive stillness, the air heavy and electric, crackling with the whispers of forgotten incantations. Shadows writhed against the stone walls, twisting into grotesque shapes as they danced in the flickering light of the candles. A shiver ran down Merrin's spine, the fine hairs on her arms standing on end as she stepped closer to the row of portraits lining the walls. The faces within the frames, once serene, now twisted into sneers of anguish and fury, their eyes glinting with a malevolent hunger that seemed to reach out and grasp at her soul. "Can you feel it?" she whispered to Elian, her voice barely audible above the rising pulse of dark magic swirling around them. He nodded, his gaze locked on the portrait of a sorceress, her lips curled in a wicked grin, fingers poised as though casting a spell. The very essence of despair clung to the air, suffocating yet intoxicating, and the portraits seemed to pulse in rhythm with Merrin's racing heart. "We should go," Elian urged, his voice trembling slightly. But they both knew they were rooted to the spot, drawn deeper into the thrall of darkness, where power and peril intertwined like the shadows that writhed beneath their feet. A distant echo of clattering armor cut through the heavy silence, a jarring reminder of the peril lurking just beyond the flickering shadows. The air was thick with the scent of damp stone and the faint metallic tang of fear. Bran's heart raced as he motioned for the others to huddle closer, their breath coming in shallow gasps. "We can't leave them," he whispered urgently, his voice barely rising above the low rumble of discontent from the tunnel's depths. A flicker of hope ignited in Ilara's eyes, but it quickly dimmed as she glanced back at the darkened passage. What if it's a trap? Beside her, Cedric clenched his fists, the stark realization of their friend's plight gnawing at his courage. "Sir Bernard needs us," he insisted, his voice steadying with each word. "We can't abandon him. He saved my life at the ridge." The determination in his eyes was a spark against the oppressive gloom, igniting a shared resolve. The distant clanging of metal echoed again, sharper this time, and shivered through the very stones of the corridor, thickening the air with tension. A flicker of danger danced at the edges of their consciousness, urging them forward, yet urging caution, like a storm about to break. They all felt it, the creeping fear lingering like fog, but beneath it all, the pulsing need to act, to save those who had fought so fiercely for their cause. The air was thick with tension, an electric charge crackling against Alex's skin. As the looming shadow of the challenge stretched before them, dark and menacing, their heart thudded in their chest, a frantic drumbeat that drowned out the world around. Each pulse a reminder of the weight of expectation. A bitter taste of adrenaline flooded their mouth, mingling with the stench of damp earth and fear. "Just breathe. Just breathe," they whispered, but the words felt hollow, echoing back to them in a voice that was not their own. The path twisted ahead, overgrown and brimming with unknown dangers. Each rustle of leaves an ominous whisper, each snap of a twig a warning. Sweat trickled down their brows, stinging their eyes, blurring the reality that surrounded them. What if they fail? The thought clawed at the edges of their minds, suffocating, relentless. A memory flared. Grandfather's wise words: courage isn't the absence of fear, it's facing it. But could they summon that bravery? Doubt gnawed at their insides like a ravenous beast, and just as despair threatened to swallow them whole, a flicker of resolve sparked within, a fragile light, still flickering, but alive. The cavern's damp air clung to Alex like an unwelcome shroud, heavy with the smell of moss and ancient earth. Every breath a reminder of the darkness that surrounded them. Shadows danced in the flickering light of a solitary lantern, the flame trembling as if caught in a ghostly draught, illuminating the rough-hewn stone walls lined with the echoes of forgotten tales. Then, from the oppressive silence, a whisper emerged, soft but insistent. "Alex, you must be brave." It was Sir Bernard's voice, hauntingly familiar yet distant, weaving through the cavern like a gentle wind stirring autumn leaves. A chill skittered down Alex's spine, a mix of fear and an unyielding urge to respond, to step forward into the unknown. "But what if I fail?" they whispered, heart pounding like a war drum, each beat a reminder of their vulnerability in this place of dread. "Courage isn't the absence of fear," the voice reverberated through the stone, imbued with a warmth that wrapped around Alex, a lifeline in the oppressive dark. "It's the choice to move forward despite it." Taking a deep breath, Alex clenched their fists, the warmth of resolve igniting within them, a flicker of light against the encroaching shadows, the call of Sir Bernard echoing in their mind. No longer just a whisper in the dark, but now a clarion call to embrace their destiny. The air was thick with the scent of damp earth and the lingering warmth of the day, as shadows stretched long beneath the towering trees, their leaves whispering secrets in the breeze. Alex stood at the edge of the clearing, heart racing, a fire igniting within. "Remember what we talked about," Alex said, voice steady yet quivering with urgency, as the faces of their friends, a mosaic of determination and uncertainty, gathered around. The fading sunlight painted them in shades of gold and bronze, highlighting the resolve etched in their brows. "We've faced worse together. This is just another storm to weather." The sound of snapping twigs echoed in the stillness, a reminder of the challenges that lay ahead. Lena, always the skeptic, crossed her arms, her fingers tapping nervously against her skin. But even she couldn't suppress the flicker of hope in her eyes. "You really think we can do it?" she asked, her voice barely rising above the gentle rustle of leaves. "We've come this far, haven't we?" Alex replied, feeling the warmth of shared experiences envelop them like a protective cloak. Let's gather our strength, draw on everything we'd learned together. A palpable energy surged through the group, their breaths synchronizing, a collective heartbeat in the twilight as they stepped closer, united by the promise of resilience, ready to face whatever awaited them. The air crackled with a palpable tension, shadows swirling like smoke around them, and whispers of ancient incantations filled their ears. Alara's heart raced, the icy grip of fear clawing at her throat, but she could see the determination in Kieran's eyes, his hand steadying hers. "We can't let it consume us," he urged, his voice a low growl, cutting through the oppressive darkness. Together, they stepped forward, their feet crunching on the shattered remnants of an old spell, a testament to those who had come before and failed. Ilara focused on the warmth radiating from their entwined hands, summoning courage as she chanted the words taught to her by her grandmother, her voice rising in defiance against the shrouded malevolence pressing in. Kieran mirrored her, the cadence of their spell intertwining, creating a tapestry of light that flickered against the engulfing shadows. The darkness recoiled, hissing like a wounded beast, and she felt the power surge through her, vibrant and alive. "Together!" he shouted, the command igniting a fire within them both. With a final crescendo, they thrust their combined energy forward, a brilliant wave of luminescence illuminating the cavern and banishing the creeping dread, if only for a moment. The stillness that followed was deafening, their breaths mingling in the charged air, anticipation and hope dancing on the precipice of the unknown. The drumming rain pelted the ground, a relentless symphony that echoed the pounding in Alex's chest. Yet, as the shadow of doubt loomed over them, a small flame flickered to life within. "We can do this," Alex whispered, glancing at the others, huddled close, their faces etched with uncertainty, the atmosphere thick with tension. The gusty wind tugged at his clothes, but as he locked eyes with Maya, her steely gaze igniting a spark of courage, he felt the weight of fear begin to lift. "Let's move," he shouted, voice breaking through the tempest like a beacon, and with that he surged ahead, drawing the others into his wake. Each step felt like a declaration, a rebellion against the paralyzing grip of anxiety that had held them captive for too long. The muddy ground squelched beneath their feet. Yet every slip and stumble only fueled his resolve. He was no longer just following. Their collective momentum swelled an unstoppable force. The wind carried their laughter, mingled with shouts, and in that electric moment he realized bravery was not the absence of fear, but the fierce choice to face it together, hearts pounding as one. The air thickened with malevolence, a tangible weight that pressed against Oliver's chest, his heart racing in defiance. Shadows writhed at the edges of his vision, whispering secrets of despair that clawed at his resolve. He stepped forward, each stride resonating with a quiet determination, the chill of dark energy wrapping around him like a serpent, hissing promises of power and pain. He could feel it slithering into his veins, a cold fire igniting his very essence, yet he stood firm, his breath steady, as if he was the calm amid the storm. "Not today," he murmured, the words barely escaping his lips. Yet they echoed in the silence that followed, a beacon against the encroaching darkness. Faces of those he loved flickered in his mind, his sister's laugh, his mother's gentle touch, the warmth of their shared moments, all memories lending him strength. As the shadows surged, seeking to consume him, he raised his chin defiantly, feeling the surge of energy within, a fierce light battling against the void. "Come then," he challenged, the corners of his mouth twitching into a resolute smile. In that moment, Oliver became more than a boy. He was a bulwark against despair, a vessel of hope, willing to sacrifice himself for the love that gleamed faintly on the horizon. And so he embraced the darkness, ready to transform its threat into something greater. The air shimmered around Alex, the oppressive weight of despair clinging like a thick fog as whispers of doubt clawed at the edges of their mind. Heart pounding, they stepped forward, feeling the cool stone beneath their feet, grounding them. A flicker of light pulsed from deep within, a warmth that radiated through their chest, dispelling the shadows that threatened to engulf them. "I can do this," they murmured, barely above a whisper, but the conviction grew, igniting a fire that coursed through their veins, illuminating the dark corners of their soul. With every breath, the light expanded, swirling in vibrant hues, igniting the walls of the ancient chamber, painting stories of courage that danced in the flickering shadows. The spellbinding darkness writhed in defiance, but Alex stood firm, arms outstretched, channeling the energy, feeling its surge, its raw power as the darkness receded like a tide. "You're not stronger than me," they cried, voice echoing defiantly, each word a heartbeat, each heartbeat a vow. The spell trembled, crackling and hissing, bending under the brilliance of newfound bravery, as Alex embraced the light within, transforming fear into fierce resolve, ready to break the chains that bound them. A crack like thunder split the heavy air, and the shimmering veil of dark magic shattered into a cascade of glittering shards, each fragment dissolving into nothingness as it released the trapped souls within the portraits. The room, once steeped in shadows, burst into ethereal light, illuminating the contours of the gilded frames. Sir Bernard, his noble visage now free, stepped forward, eyes wide with astonishment and a hint of the desperation he'd felt for decades. "At last I breathe," he exclaimed, his voice echoing like a forgotten melody. Around him the other figures stirred. An elegant lady with a tear-streaked cheek, a jovial knight whose laughter rang out like bells, and a young girl who twirled in delight, her dress swirling in a ghostly dance. The scent of warm parchment and faded oils enveloped them, mingling with the scent of freshly blossomed roses that seemed to bloom from the very walls. Sir Bernard ran his fingers through his once stiff hair, now wild with the freedom of movement, his heart racing as he turned to the one who chattered their curse, gratitude radiating from him. You have given us a second chance. We owe you our lives. With newfound hope swirling around them, they stepped out of the frames, ready to embrace the world beyond. The sun dipped low on the horizon, casting a warm golden glow that wrapped around them like a comforting embrace as Sir Bernard's voice broke through the tranquil hume of the evening. Alex, he began, his eyes shimmering with pride, your journey has been nothing short of extraordinary. The weight of those words hung in the air, sweet and heavy, as Alex stood before him, the echoes of past fears dissipating like mist in the morning light. The scent of fresh earth and blooming wild flowers filled the clearing, a reminder of the growth that had flourished both in the land and within. Eased him. I couldn't have done it without your guidance, sir, Alex replied, his voice steady, heart pounding with gratitude, the memory of trembling hands and silent pleas for courage now replaced with a firm resolve. Sir Bernard stepped closer, placing a reassuring hand on Alex's shoulder, his touch warm and grounding. You found the bravery that was always within you, he said softly, a smile creasing his withered face. And that is a gift to cherish. The world around them seemed to hold its breath as the first stars began to twinkle in the twilight, signaling not just an end, but the promise of endless possibilities ahead. The wind howled through the narrow alleyways, carrying with it the scent of rain-soaked pavement and the distant murmur of thunder, a foreboding symphony that echoed the turmoil in Lena's heart. She pressed herself against the damp brick wall, the cold seeping through her thin jacket, as she caught sight of the shadowy figure at the far end, a fleeting glimpse of a familiar silhouette. Are you sure it's him? She whispered, her voice barely audible over the rising storm, doubt clawing at her throat. I know him, replied Sam, his breath coming quick and uneven, eyes darting nervously, but we have to be cautious. He isn't alone. Just then, a flash of lightning illuminated the alley, revealing two more figures lurking behind a corner, their faces obscured, but their intentions clear. Lena's pulse quickened, adrenaline surging through her veins like electricity as the storm above erupted, rain pouring down in sheets. We need to go, she urged. But each word felt like a weight, pinning them to the spot as her mind raced with questions. What if this was a trap? What if they were too late? Stay close, Sam murmured, his grip on her arm tightening, and together they edged forward, hearts pounding in sync with the thunder, the raw tension hanging in the air like a charged promise, a prelude to the chaos lurking just beyond their reach. As the last of the portraits settled back into their gilded frames, the air in Hogwarts hummed with a collective sigh of relief, a wave of color cascading through the great hall like a spell of warmth. Laughter bubbled up from every corner, intertwining with the sweet aroma of pumpkin pasties and spiced cider wafting from the tables. Did you see the look on the fat lady's face? whispered Hermione, her eyes sparkling with mischief as she nudged Harry, who barely contained his chuckle. The portraits, now animated and vibrant, began to recount tales of their long absent adventures, their voices layered like the rustle of ancient parchment, filling the room with a rich tapestry of sound. Sir Cadogan, ever the flamboyant knight, leapt from his frame, gesturing dramatically. And then I told them, not on my watch. The enchanted flames flickered in response, casting playful shadows that danced across the stone walls. Even the enchanted ceiling, reflecting a twilight sky glimmering with stars, seemed to pulse with renewed life, as if celebrating this joyous reunion. A sense of camaraderie enveloped the room, binding both students and staff alike, their hearts light with the promise of new memories, whispered secrets, and nights filled with laughter echoing through the hallowed halls. The flickering candlelight cast dancing shadows on the stone walls of the dimly lit chamber. As Alex leaned forward, eyes fixed on Sir Bernard, the mentor's weathered hands resting on the table, a testament to years of wisdom. Fear is a fickle beast, Sir Bernard said, his voice gravelly yet steady, each word laced with an urgency that demanded attention. Alex's heart raced, memories of tremors and doubts swirling in his mind as he recalled the moments spent cowering in the shadows of his own insecurities. Every time you face it, Bernard continued, his gaze piercing through Alex's defenses, you break a little piece of its power. You have to wrestle with it, not run. The air thickened with tension, a palpable reminder of battles fought both inside and out. Alex felt warmth rise in his chest, an unsteady hope blooming amid the fear that had once paralyzed him. He took a deep breath, the scent of beeswax and old parchment filling his lungs, grounding him, reminding him of his journey. A transformation woven through courage and vulnerability. I see that now, he whispered, the admission tasting bittersweet. Sir Bernard nodded, a knowing smile playing on his lips, the flickering light illuminating the path ahead, paved not with certainty but with possibility. The gym was alive with the buzz of anticipation, students clustered in vibrant cliques, eyes sparkling with mischief and fear alike. Think you'll actually do it? Whispered Mia, her voice barely above the thrum of chatter as Ali stood at the edge, heart pounding, in sync with the thumping bass of the school speaker. The announcement of the bravery challenge had stirred something raw and electric within him, a mix of excitement and dread. A sea of faces turned toward the makeshift stage where Mr. Thompson's booming voice echoed, announcing daring feats. Swimming in the frigid pond, performing on stage, even sharing a hidden fear in front of peers. Alex swallowed hard, the taste of salt lingering from the popcorn he had munched nervously moments before. Memories of last year's hesitant retreats flitted through his mind like shadows, a reminder of how he had let opportunities slip through his fingers. I'm in, he declared, earning a mix of gasps and reluctant applause from nearby classmates. An intoxicating swirl of doubt and exhilaration flooding his veins, The weight of their expectations pressed against his chest, yet beneath it simmered a burgeoning resolve, igniting a spark of courage he had buried too long. This was his moment, and he would seize it, ready or not. The gym buzzed with anticipation, fluorescent lights casting a harsh glare on the polished wooden floor where sweat and ambition collided. Alex's heart raced, pounding like a drum in his chest as he tightened his shoelaces, the rough fibers digging into his palms. Across the court, Vincent leaned casually against the bleachers, his smirk a venomous reminder of their bitter rivalry. The way he flicked his dark hair back, only igniting Alex's competitive fire. "Ready to eat dust again, Alex?" Vincent called out, his voice dripping with mockery, echoing in the cavernous space. The air was thick with the scent of liniment and adrenaline, each inhale stoking the flickering flame of doubt within Alex. He could feel the weight of every pair of eyes watching, scrutinizing as the whistle blew, sharp and piercing, signaling the start of the game. With every dribble of the ball, each bounce resonated like thunder, and he could almost hear the murmurs of spectators, their breaths hitching in unison. The pressure coiled around him like a snake, squeezing tight. But he refused to let it choke him, his focus sharpening, heart thrumming, the roar of rivalry drowning out all fear. "Let's do this," he whispered to himself, a silent promise igniting his determination as he faced Vincent, ready to prove that today would not be a repeat of history. The sun hung in the sky, casting long shadows across the worn wooden floor of the gym as Alex lunged forward, sweat glistening on his brow, his breath coming in quick, determined bursts. "You've got this, Alex! Just a little more!" Lydia shouted, her voice echoing off the walls, mingling with the rhythmic thud of Oliver's fists against the heavy bag. The scent of sweat and leather enveloped them, a stark reminder of the relentless hours they'd spent training together, honing their skills, pushing each other beyond limits. With every swing of his arms, Alex felt the weight of his fears lifting, replaced by an electric pulse of adrenaline, a flicker of hope igniting within him. "Remember to pivot, use your hips," Oliver called out, stepping back to watch, his eyes sharp, assessing. Alex gritted his teeth, focusing on the rhythm, the flow of his movements, each jab, each kick, a testament to the countless hours of practice. "Breathe, in through the nose, out through the mouth," Lydia chimed in, her voice steady and comforting, grounding him amidst the chaos. He closed his eyes briefly, feeling the warmth of their support, the bond they shared, and in that moment he knew he could rise to the challenge, not alone, but with his friends by his side, every heartbeat echoing their unwavering faith in him. The flickering candlelight danced in rhythm with the shadows on the cobblestone walls, a silent witness to the turmoil swirling in Alex's mind. With every echo of laughter floating from the other room, the warmth of camaraderie felt suffocating, as though the very air was thickening with unspoken doubt. A bitter taste lingered on their tongue, reminiscent of half-formed words that danced on the tip of their lips, begging for release, but swallowed back down. Alex wrapped their arms around themselves, fingers trembling as they traced the intricate patterns of their sweater, feeling the fabric like a fragile barrier against the cool, insistent reality of indecision. "What if I don't belong here?" they whispered to the chipped wooden table, its surface worn and familiar, yet now feeling alien, the laughter sharpening into a reminder of all the friendships that felt just out of reach. Outside, the wind picked up, howling through the alleyways like a ghost demanding to be heard. A glance at the doorway revealed glimmers of bright faces and shared stories, each one a thread, pulling Alex closer, yet the weight of uncertainty anchored them in place. "I should just go in," they murmured, but the words felt hollow, swallowed by the very shadows they feared. The air was thick with tension, the dim light of the castle's great hall flickering as the flames danced in the hearth, casting shadows that flickered like doubt in Alex's mind. Sir Bernard stood before him, his weathered hands clasped tightly around the hilt of his sword, eyes shimmering with the wisdom of countless battles fought and won. "You've faced worse, lad," he said, his voice a gravelly whisper that carved through the silence. "Remember the crest of Raven's Peak? You soared above the storm." The memory surged through Alex, a vivid blaze of triumph igniting his spirit. He could almost feel the rush of wind against his face, hear the roar of victory ringing in his ears. "But this," he stammered, glancing nervously at the looming shadows, "this feels different." Sir Bernard stepped closer, the scent of leather and old wood enveloping them, grounding him. "Every challenge is but a shadow, ready to be conquered. Embrace it like the artist embraces the chaos of a canvas," he urged, his voice rising with conviction. "Let it fuel you. You carry within you the essence of all your victories, lad. Now go forth and let them roar." The fire crackled as Alex inhaled deeply, the taste of soot and determination mingling on his tongue, fear transmuting into resolve. The sun crested the horizon, casting golden rays that danced playfully on the dew-kissed grass, as laughter and nervous chatter filled the crisp morning air. Children in vibrant colors clustered together, their eyes sparkling with a mix of excitement and trepidation, while the distant sound of drums thumped in time with racing hearts. "Are you ready for this, Jamie?" whispered Mia, her voice trembling with a mix of thrill and fear as she adjusted the bandana tied around her forehead, an emblem of courage. The scent of freshly baked pastries wafted from a nearby stall, mingling with the earthy smell of wood and sweat, heightening the anticipation that thrummed in their veins. Parents cheered from the sidelines, their words of encouragement rising above the chaotic energy, a chorus of hope and pride. "You can do this. Just remember why you started," Jamie murmured to herself, clutching the worn leather bracelet that had been her mother's, a silent talisman against uncertainty. As the bell tolled, signaling the start of the challenge, a silence fell, heavy and electric, before erupting into joyous chaos. Each heartbeat felt like a drum, resounding with the promise of bravery as they faced the unknown, ready to leap into the thrill of the day ahead. The air was thick with tension as Elena crouched behind the cracked stone wall, her heart racing in her chest, each beat a desperate reminder of the time slipping away. The distant roar of engines echoed through the narrow alleys, a cacophony of chaos that sent icy tendrils of fear creeping up her spine. She peeked around the corner, the flickering shadows of the approaching soldiers casting ominous shapes on the cobblestone. "Are you sure this will work?" whispered Jonas, his voice barely above a breath, the tremor of doubt clinging to each word. Elena turned to him, her eyes fierce, despite the uncertainty swirling in her mind. "It has to. If we don't get to the rendezvous before nightfall, everything we've fought for will be lost." The stakes had never been higher. The resistance was counting on them, not just for survival, but for the spark of hope they had ignited in the hearts of the oppressed. Suddenly, a shout rang out, sharp and piercing, slicing through the murmur of the crowd, and Eleanor's breath hitched. She wanted to bolt, to run, but she forced herself to stay still, to listen. "There!" a soldier barked, pointing directly at their hiding place. "They're here!" The world around her faded, an instinctual resolve rising within her. She would protect her people, no matter the cost. The forest held its breath as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows that danced like specters among the trees. Clara pressed deeper into the underbrush, the tang of damp earth filling her nostrils, mingling with a sharp scent of pine. Her heart pounded, not merely with exertion, but with the weight of what she now understood. The whispered rumors of the village weren't just tales, they were warnings, and the risk was more perilous than she had imagined. "Clara, wait!" A voice, low and urgent, sliced through the silence, grounding her in the moment. It was Jonah, his eyes wide with fear, fingers trembling as he caught her arm. "We shouldn't be. Here, they'll find us." She shook her head, resolute. "We have to know the truth, Jonah. If they're hiding something, we can't just walk away." The wind picked up, rustling the leaves in a cacophony that mirrored her swirling thoughts. Shadows flickered between the trees, twisting and writhing like a living thing. A low growl rumbled from the darkness, sending a chill racing down her spine. "Did you hear that?" she whispered, her voice barely above a breath. Jonah's grip tightened, the fear in his eyes now palpable as something unseen prowled closer, eyes gleaming with malevolence. They weren't just seeking answers, they were running out of time. The air crackled with tension as Clara stumbled into the dimly lit warehouse, the scent of rust and damp concrete hitting her like a freight train. Shadows danced across the walls, twisting and contorting as she navigated past crates adorned with faded warnings and peeling paint. Each heartbeat thudded in her ears, a relentless reminder of the urgency driving her forward. "You shouldn't be here," a low voice warned from the shadows, causing her to freeze, heart racing. "James," she whispered, squinting against the darkness. His silhouette emerged, eyes glinting like shards of glass, desperation etched into his features. "You need to leave. Now. They're coming for you." The tremor in his voice amplified her fear, but a flicker of stubborn resolve ignited within her. I can't just abandon you. We need to find the evidence before they silence us, he interjected, stepping closer, urgency lacing his tone. Clara, this is bigger than us. They have eyes everywhere, and if they catch you here... His words trailed off, the implication hanging heavy in the air. A door creaked ominously in the distance, and the sound sent a shiver down her spine, the stakes rising with every second. Time was slipping through her fingers like the shadows around them as the hunt began. The chill in the air wrapped around Elara as she stepped into the dimly lit cavern, the flickering torchlight casting eerie shadows on the damp stone walls. Her heart raced, a relentless drumbeat echoing the urgency of her mission, the weight of her discovery pressing down on her chest like a heavy stone. We can't go back now, she whispered fiercely, her voice trembling as she glanced over her shoulder at Marcus, who lingered just behind her, eyed with a blend of fear and determination. The faint dripping of water echoed in the silence, each drop a reminder of the time slipping away, of the danger they were courting. Ahead, the cavern opened into a vast chamber, and the pungent smell of sulfur filled the air, sharp and acrid. In the center, a pulsing, crystalline structure glowed ominously, its light a beacon that drew her closer, even as a shiver of dread coursed through her. "Do you feel that?" Marcus asked, his voice barely above a whisper, as if speaking too loudly might awaken whatever ancient force lay dormant here. She nodded, her throat dry as she took a cautious step forward, the ground crunching beneath her boots, the weight of unspoken truths looming over them, threatening to unravel everything they had fought for. The air hung heavy with a sweet, cloying scent, a stark contrast to the acrid smoke curling from the nearby ruin. And as Elara stepped into the shadowed alley, her heart raced, each footfall echoing against the damp cobblestones. The distant wail of sirens pierced the night, mingling with the chaotic shouts of terrified citizens, and she could almost taste the fear. Metallic and sharp on her tongue, a flicker of movement caught her eye, and before she could fully register the figure darting into a nearby doorway, a low growl rumbled from the shadows. "Stay back!" she hissed, hand instinctively reaching for the dagger hidden beneath her cloak, fingers trembling. From the darkness emerged not just a threat, but the unmistakable silhouette of Kellan, his face streaked with soot, an urgency etched into his features. "It's worse than we thought, Elara. The rebellion isn't just a whisper anymore," he gasped, breath coming in sharp bursts. "They're planning to strike tonight, and if we don't act now, then we'll lose everything." She interrupted, her voice barely a whisper, fear curling around her like a shroud. The stakes surged higher, swirling like the smoke above, threatening to consume them both. The sound of footsteps echoed through the dimly lit corridor, a rhythmic cadence that sent shivers down Mia's spine. She pressed her back against the cold, damp wall, the musty scent of decay mingling with the metallic tang of fear in the air. Each step drew closer, the muffled whispers of the intruders growing clearer, their intentions heavy with malice. "Did you hear? The key's in her pocket," one voice hissed, sharp and urgent, while the other replied, a low growl of frustration, "We don't have time to waste." Panic surged within her, a roaring tide threatening to drown her senses, but she clenched her fists, grounding herself in the present. Somewhere down the hall, shadows danced under flickering fluorescent lights, casting eerie shapes on the peeling paint. She could feel the weight of the small, cool key pressing against her thigh. A lifeline or a noose, depending on how this played out. "We need to move," one of them growled. And as they turned toward her hiding place, Mia's heart raced, a wild drumbeat echoing in the silence. "If they find me, I'm done," she whispered to herself, her breath hitching as she edged closer to the door behind her, every instinct screaming to flee, yet a flicker of defiance ignited within her. She could turn the tide. If only she could reach the key first. The storm raged outside, sheets of rain slashing against the windows like a wild beast clawing for entry. But inside the dimly lit room, there was an even fiercer tension brewing. Elena paced the floor, her heart pounding in rhythm with the thunder, each clap a stark reminder of the ticking clock that hung ominously on the wall. "We can't wait any longer," she said, her voice barely rising above the howling wind. Daniel, hunched over the table, rubbed his temples, the weight of their situation pressing down on him like the leaden sky. "If we go now, we'll be exposed," he murmured, glancing at the door as if it might open at any moment, unleashing their pursuers. The flickering candle cast erratic shadows across his face, revealing the deep lines of fear etched there. "Exposed? We're already trapped," she shot back, the bite of desperation lacing her words. "They'll come for us, Daniel, whether we're ready or not." A sudden crash outside made her jump, and for a moment their eyes locked, a shared understanding passing between them, a silent agreement that whatever lay beyond those walls was far worse than the fear that gripped them now. The air thickened with unspoken dread, every drop of rain resonating with a sense of impending doom as the dawn of their reckoning loomed closer. As the sun dipped below the jagged horizon, casting the remnants of day in hues of crimson and gold, a shrill cry pierced the evening air, echoing through the narrow alleys of the bustling marketplace. Lena's heart raced, the familiar scent of spices and roasted meats swirling around her, clashing violently with the sudden pang of dread that settled in her stomach. "Stay close," she hissed to her brother, Theo, whose wide eyes were fixed on the commotion near the fountain, where a crowd huddled, voices rising in frantic urgency. She pushed through, her palms clammy and her breath quickening as she reached the edge of the throng. A figure lay motionless on the cobblestones, the stark white of his shirt now marred with dark crimson stains. "Is he dead?" Theo whispered, his voice trembling. "No, not yet," a man in a tattered cloak responded, kneeling beside the body, his fingers probing the wound with grim determination. Lena felt the weight of secrets pressing down on her, The knowledge that her family's smuggling operation had just become a ticking clock, each heartbeat echoing in her ears like a warning. "We need to move now," she urged, grabbing Theo's hand. But as they turned away, a shadow loomed behind them, a pair of watchful eyes, dark with intent, locking onto her, sealing their fate in that instant. The thunderous roar of the approaching storm drowned out their whispers as Lena clutched the old map, her fingers trembling over the faded ink. "We have to hurry," she gasped, glancing over her shoulder at the shadowy figures creeping through the trees, their intentions cloaked in menace. The air crackled with electricity, and the scent of wet earth, mixed with the metallic tang of fear, hung heavily around them. "Do you think they saw us?" Jake asked, his voice barely above a whisper, his eyes wide with panic, darting between the gnarled branches that swayed ominously in the wind. Lena felt her heart pounding in rhythm with the thunder, each beat urging her to run, to escape the impending danger. "We can't let them find the amulet," she insisted, clenching her jaw, steeling herself against the tide of uncertainty that threatened to sweep her away. The faint echo of laughter drifted from the shadows, chilling her to the bone, and she felt the weight of their mission pressing down on her. Far more than just treasure, it was an ancient power that could change everything. The trees parted, revealing a narrow path lined with jagged rocks, as Lena's resolve hardened. "This way, quickly," she urged, pulling Jake into the darkness, their breath mingling as they ran, heartbeats syncing with the storm, echoing a desperate plea for survival. The air thickened with tension as Mira stood at the edge of the crumbling cliff, the wind whipping her hair like tendrils of smoke curling from a dying fire. Below, the jagged rocks jutted out of the frothy sea, their dark faces glistening ominously under the setting sun, now a molten orange ball sinking into the horizon. Her heart raced, each beat echoing the urgency of her thoughts. She had to make a choice now, before the light faded completely. "Do you trust me?" came a voice from behind, sharp and cutting through the roar of the waves. It was Jarek, his eyes wide with a mix of desperation and determination, the very look that had led her into this mess. "Trust is a luxury we can't afford right now," she shot back, her throat thickening with anxiety, as she glanced over her shoulder at the thickening shadows creeping closer. Hunters from their past, shadows that had come to collect. "It's long overdue. Mira, listen. If we don't act fast, they'll have us cornered. We can't run from this anymore," he urged, stepping closer, the warmth of his presence a stark contrast to the chill of impending doom. With a clenched jaw, she turned back to the abyss, fear and resolve warring inside her. She could feel the ground trembling beneath her feet, as if the world itself held its breath, waiting for her decision. The sound of rushing water drowned out Ilara's heartbeats as she stood at the edge of the darkened ravine, the moonlight reflecting off its icy depths. Her breath hung in the cold air, a fleeting ghost, mingling with the scent of damp earth and pine. "We can't go back now," she whispered, urgency threading through her voice, as Kel's fingers grazed her arm, a silent plea for caution. His eyes, usually so steadfast, flickered with doubt, the shadows playing tricks on their resolve. Every step we take into this abyss pulls us deeper into his trap, he murmured, glancing at the jagged rocks below, a reminder of the peril that awaited them should they fail. With the weight of their mission thrumming in her chest, Ilara clenched her fists, the fabric of her cloak rough against her skin, grounding her in the moment. If we don't confront him now, she said, a tremor lacing her tone, more will suffer. We can't let fear dictate our fate. As she took a step forward, a distant sound echoed, a low rumble that sent a shiver cascading down her spine. It wasn't just the water. This was something darker, something alive. The forest held its breath, and in that stillness, Ilara felt the shadows of their past mistakes creeping back, threatening to swallow them whole. The wind howled through the jagged cliffs, carrying with it the scent of salt and desperation, as Ilara clung to the weathered stone, her heart racing like a caged bird. Below, the waves crashed violently against the rocks, their white foam clawing at the shoreline, mirroring the turmoil that churned within her. You have to choose, Ilara. It's him or the crown. Taran's voice pierced the tumult, desperation lacing his words as he stepped closer, the shadows of the gathering storm deepening the lines on his face. She could see the flicker of uncertainty in his eyes, the warmth they once held, now replaced by fear, and it cut deeper than any blade. Ilara swallowed hard, the weight of the decision pressing down on her like the storm clouds looming above. If I choose the crown, they'll destroy him, she whispered, each word a fragile thread in the web of loyalty and love that bound her, pulling taut as she imagined the darkness that awaited Kaelin. A crash of thunder overhead sent a shiver down her spine, as if the heavens themselves were warning her, the storm reflecting the chaos within. And if you choose him, what of your people? Taran countered, his voice hanging in the air like a fragile truce, teetering on the edge of chaos.